Next, let's turn our attention to business news now, because there's a huge meeting taking place, the first in Africa for 5 decades. It's in Marrakech, in Morocco. It's the World Bank and the IMF, and Charles Pellegrin is on set with us. Top of the agenda is climate.
Climate financing, absolutely, Gavin. And in concrete terms, this means ramping up that financing for the transition to clean energy and, for example, for climate change resilient infrastructure. Now, this Wednesday in Marrakech, senior executives at multilateral development banks like the World Bank or the IMF will be meeting with some of the world's top credit ratings agencies in a bid to boost their lending capacity. Ratings agencies hold a lot of sway here. Holding on to a AAA credit rating allows these institutions, these MDBs as they're called, to borrow at a low rate, and as such to transfer these low rates onto the developing nations they support. As a reminder, as you can see on this graphic here, the financing needs are huge. A G20 report by a group of independent experts has found that funding to reach sustainable development goals in developing countries will have to increase $3 trillion annually by 2030, 1.8 trillion of which will be investments for climate action, the rest being for development goals like poverty alleviation. And when it comes to funding from institutions like the World Bank, well, annual lending will have to triple to $260 billion. Well, for more on this, I'm joined on the line from Morocco by Axel van Trotsenburg. He's Senior Managing Director at the World Bank. Thank you very much for being with us on France 24, Mr. van Trotsenburg. First off, in its current form, with its current organization, can the World Bank help reach these financing goals that we've outlined just now?
Well, we have been hugely expanding our operations over the last couple of years, also largely because of COVID. But there are also, as you just said, enormous challenges with climate financing. So we have been looking over the last year to see how we can optimize our balance sheets, identify additional possibilities to boost our financial firepower. And we are on good track. Earlier this year, we identified another $50 billion over 10 years. And now we have a couple of measures in place that could also mobilize, again, tens of billions of dollars. But one thing, as also you said, is the needs are large. So therefore, we need to see how we can work, particularly with the private sector, to get closer to these, to fill the gap.
There's been a lot of talk, especially at these meetings, about these sort of institutional reforms at places like the World Bank or the IMF. What reforms do you think are needed here?
Well, first of all, the World Bank has been in business for over 75 years. We need to go with the times. We need to always adjust to the new needs of the world. And clearly, what COVID has shown, what climate change has shown, these are global challenges that need to be addressed, including our core mandate of fighting poverty. So we have redefined a new vision that is ending poverty on a livable planet, because as you have seen with climate, this is increasingly being challenged. And therefore, what we need to do, all our operations, whether our lending activity, our knowledge activity, our partnerships, have to adjust accordingly.
Is there a role here for, you mentioned cooperation with the private sector, but also cooperation between different multilateral banks or institutions, especially some that perhaps represent different geopolitical interests? I'm thinking, for example, of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank in Beijing.
Well, I think it is absolutely important and essential that we all work as a system together. We have actually good cooperation also with the AIIB, but also with the Regional Development Bank, like the African Development Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank, or the Asian Development Bank. I think we need to see only together we can make a difference.
The news cycle right now obviously is dominated by this war between Israel and Hamas, and you mentioned challenges to reaching those sustainable development goals of, for example, alleviating poverty on a livable planet. What impact do you see this particular conflict potentially having on the ability to reach these goals?
Well, these goals have been challenged, I think, largely already by the COVID. Any conflict is difficult. What you need to know that right now, the concentration of extreme poverty is in fragile states. And we have the tragedy is that our expectation is that the majority of the extreme poor will live in the fragile states. And wherever they are in the world, from Afghanistan to the Sahel zone, but we are also seeing in the Middle East, including in Gaza, but also in Yemen, that this is affecting poverty. And clearly, this is an organization which was created on the ashes of the Second World War. Our mission is a peaceful mission. Our mission is to reconstruct and constructively and work together. That is our idea, to work together, because only in this way we can make a difference.
Axel von Trotsenburg is a Senior Managing Director at the World Bank. Thank you very much for speaking to us on France 24.
Pleasure.
That's the end of the segment, Gavin. As you can see, there's so many ramifications to this conflict between Israel and Hamas in the long run.
Charles, thank you. Charles Pellegrin on the business desk.